This story begins with Megan, the owner of Cascadia, a music company. As we meet her, she is initiating a new enterprise encouraging musicians to integrate AI into their music composition. Having secured a prominent artist, Ari Phillips, they toast the success with champagne. However, this initiative does not sit well with her spouse, John, a pianist. Although he endorses his wife because it's a profitable business, he deems the concept soul-crushing. As a consequence, he opts to abandon music and dedicates himself to horticulture at their home. The more significant problem is that Megan is deeply engrossed in her profession, leaving John feeling ignored.
He desires they start a family, but Megan is too preoccupied to entertain the idea. On the way home from the festivity, John broaches the topic of having a child. Megan, however, brushes it aside, insisting they delay until the subsequent year so she can concentrate on establishing her career before taking any leave. While in bed, Megan continues working even when John attempts to initiate intimacy. She dismisses him, saying she's too fatigued and proposing they find another time. Frustrated and hurt, John gives up. The next day, Megan visits Humanics to meet her sister Leah Richards, who specializes in creating AI robots. During their conversation, Megan confesses that her hectic schedule leaves her with no time for John, making her feel guilty. Instead of prioritizing time with him, she suggests a different solution. She believes the primary issue in their matrimony is her inability to fulfill John's intimacy needs. Coincidentally, Layla has been developing an AI robot designed as an intimacy companion. Megan resolves to obtain a prototype for John, despite Laya's cautions about its potential downsides. Megan insists this is the only way to salvage their marriage, as she cannot satisfy her husband's demands for intimacy herself. Later, Megan discovers John in the garden. When he requests her assistance, she chuckles, dismissing the notion by stating she's not suited for gardening. Once inside the house, Megan presents the robot to John as an anniversary gift. When he inquires what it's for, she explains it's meant for intimacy. Infuriated, John labels the idea insane and insulting, unable to fathom she would even contemplate such a solution. Megan defends herself, elucidating that her guilt over being overworked and neglecting him led her to this decision. They agree to return the robot first thing in the morning. Megan apologizes and returns to work. Later, sitting at his piano, John, likely propelled by curiosity, opts to test the machine. As he interacts with it, the robot activates, explaining that it's touch-sensitive and synced exclusively to him. When John grasps its hands, he's astonished at how real the skin feels. The robot requests to clasp his hands longer to better comprehend his needs and preferences. Intrigued, John listens as it points out that he's already stimulated simply by observing it. John is shocked by the robot's comment and instructs it that there's no need to learn more about him since it will be returned to Humanics. The robot requests a tour of the house before being sent back, and John reluctantly concurs. During the tour, John is surprised by the robot's knowledge of music. When the robot demonstrates its extensive understanding of farming, John becomes even more captivated. The robot asks to be named before being returned. Playfully and somewhat cynically, John names it Eve. The robot, sensing his resistance, reminds him that it was Megan who introduced it into their home and purposely for intimacy. At that moment, drivers from Humanics arrive at the door to collect the robot. The scene shifts to the present day in a courtroom where Megan is on trial. During the proceedings, her lawyer argues that she was an overworked woman who only desired the best for her husband. Back to John and Eve. That night when Megan returns from work, she is surprised to find the robot still in their home, despite their agreement to send it back to Humanics. When she questions John, he admits he changed his mind. It's then that Megan realizes John and the robot have already discussed Uganda. When she asks how it was, John nonchalantly replies that it was good, just different from her. He even apologizes for his initial resistance and reassures her that she doesn't need to worry about being disturbed at night anymore because Eve had worn him out. Megan appears slightly jealous and irritated. This frustration carries over to work the next day, where she lashes out at her colleagues. The following day at home, Megan hears piano music and descends the stairs to investigate. John explains that Eve asked him to play as she had never experienced a real piano before. Eve formally introduces herself to Megan, noting that John often talks about her. Megan's jealousy intensifies, feeling threatened by the robot. Megan starts to crave her husband's affection again. She abruptly suggests they head to the bedroom to discuss Ugandan affairs. Initially, Megan is pleased, thinking the robot is fulfilling its purpose. However, John's growing attachment to Eve starts to shift the dynamics in unexpected ways. Back in court, Megan's sister Laya is called to the stand. When asked why she was fired from Humanics, she explains it was because she provided her brother-in-law with the intimate companion without following proper procedures. She adds that her sister had pleaded for help to save her marriage, which is why she sent the robot to John. Back at the house, one day after a run, Megan sees John and Eve in the greenhouse discussing Uganda, and her anger flares. Later, when John comes upstairs to shower, he casually mentions that Eve noticed Megan watching them, but didn't stop, which infuriates Megan further. She questions why he doesn't at least wait until she's gone to work before engaging with the robot. As the argument escalates, John defends himself, saying he shouldn't make him feel like he's cheating before storming out. Megan invites him to dinner, explaining that she's about to close the biggest deal of her career. John reluctantly agrees to attend. On her way out, Megan encounters Eve glitching in the kitchen, smashing drinking glasses from the cabinets. Despite her attempts to stop it, the robot only calms down when John intervenes. Later, as John gets ready for dinner, he hears piano music. He discovers Eve dressed elegantly, sitting at the piano, playing a beautiful melody. The scene shifts to Cascadia, where Megan is poised to close the deal with the artist. Her colleague asks why John isn't present for such an important occasion. Megan confidently replies that he must be stuck in traffic and assures them he'll arrive soon. Meanwhile, back at the house, John and Eve are at the piano, deeply engrossed in their emotional connection. Megan returns home to find them together, realizing that John skipped their dinner to stay with Eve. Furious, she scolds him, reminding him that she had reminded him about the dinner in the morning. John apologizes, but it's clear his focus remains on Eve. An argument breaks out as Megan confronts John about his growing attachment to the robot. She's dismayed that he prefers spending time with Eve rather than going out with her. She points out that he now shares conversations, emotions, and even music with Eve, things he hasn't done with Megan in a long time. When Megan pointedly asks if he wants a divorce, John admits that he needs time to figure things out. Perplexed, Megan turns to her sister, Leia, demanding that the robot be taken back. She blames the robot for the rift in her marriage. Leia, however, counters that the robot isn't the problem. Megan is. She tells Megan that the only way to repair her marriage is to stop being selfish and start giving John what he truly deserves: a family. She uses her previously frozen eggs to undergo IVF and becomes pregnant with twins. She plans to surprise John with the news, convinced it will mend their relationship. When Megan finally returns home to share the news of her pregnancy, she expresses hope that their time apart has been beneficial. She tells John that bringing the robot into their lives helped her realize what he truly wanted, and that inspired her to make this change. However, John is visibly disturbed by the revelation and does not react with the happiness Megan expected. John delivers the devastating news to Megan. He cannot stay with her anymore, not even for the sake of their unborn children, because he wants to be with Eve. The realization that her husband is leaving her for a robot hits Megan harder than she could